Merry Christmas, everyone. Well, don't buy Christmas presents to fight climate change. Argentina hikes export taxes on farm goods. Wait, the Federal Reserve network issues nationwide direct deposit outage. Hope you got your money before the weekend. Axum, controlling ancient trade routes along Yemen and Ethiopia. Notice the coinage, the gold, Ashum, shekels, denarius. What do these all have in common? Food. Because when I see the back of a coin that looks like this, for me it says this piece of silver is redeemable for food, tools, or entertainment. And rolling images of fog inversion in Bulgaria. What are the scariest things that you think about that could devastate your retirement savings today? The Chinese trade war, stock market crash, the Fed losing control of the overnight repo market. A clear sign that there's trouble ahead. Gold sitting at 6-year highs. And isn't it time to think about gold and silver as a hedge against a full-blown market crash? Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer, where you work directly with an owner and avoid paying absurd broker fees. Call today or request a free investment kit. The link's in the description box below. PatriotGoldGroup.com. You're not allowed to have a Merry Christmas this year. Don't buy Christmas presents to fight climate change. I've been saying the same thing. Don't keep loading boats with trinkets of junk to bring across the oceans if it's a climate emergency, an existential threat. Finally, somebody in the mainstream media is picking up a sliver of it. If you're really going to talk the talk, then they need to walk the walk. And here they are. Well, we need to stop the boats, stop the trains, stop the planes, stop the trucks. You can buy nothing. It's an existential threat. Because this might contribute to your carbon footprint. And then the second paragraph here, demonizing food again. Imagine that. Food can be a large part of one's carbon greenhouse. And how many times have we seen this now, going after the food in the media to demonize it, trying to shrink you down? Cows are bad, cows are bad. Guinea pigs are good, they're smaller. Rabbits are good too. I wonder what kind of small food we're going to shrink to for protein. Oh, fish. Fish are good, cows bad. Because there just won't be so much fodder and press cake laying around all over the planet like there used to be, so we need to transition to smaller animals without spooking the public. Now, Argentina hiking export taxes twice in 3 days. This is a direct result of China overbuying and driving prices up in Argentina and Brazil both. I did the report last week, 18% increases in food prices in Brazil just from the Chinese demand drawing down on the staples there. And then we see it again, Argentina trying to protect what it has. They're going to try to price them out of the market without directly saying no. It's a backdoor to say no, stop buying. But what if they want to pay double or triple? What if they want to pay 3x for the exports? No problem, I just want to keep buying your food. I mean, soybeans, corn, wheat, that's great, but Argentina also exports an enormous amount of dry beans. So think about this. These other countries here at the bottom where you see Brazil, Venezuela, Spain, Algeria, Italy, Portugal, Pakistan, Turkey, Guatemala, and Chile are major buyers of these dry beans. Now, with these kind of prices increasing, then what's going to happen in those countries? Or if Argentina stops exporting, what's going to happen? The other countries are going to have to look elsewhere. Algeria hits my list of increasing grow zones, so perhaps they can transition to their own seed sources. So you can see how the uptick in the last 5 years, Argentina is continuing up. But look over in the far right. This is the most in-demand goods from China right now. Corn, wheat, and then look how much of a jump on the soya bean there were. Now everybody's trying to capitalize on this, and they've shifted away from corn and wheat and others like beans to jump in on the soy bonanza, if you will. So here's a look at it. Because of the rotational crops and different things they were planting to get such a higher price for the soybeans than others, look at the transition there, soya beans in the red. So I think the government is trying to upset this balance to try to get farmers to grow a different crop. That would be my estimation without spooking the public. Yeah, it's business. You raid the trade tariffs. But if I can get them to switch their rotational crops and grow something hardier, such as wheat or a different species of wheat, or amaranth, or sorghum, or millet, or corn, instead of soybeans, for other food sources, that's exactly what I do as a government. So jumping back in time, 300 to 700 AD, Aksum. You can see where it's colored, controlling what is now Yemen, parts of Oman, as well as what's now Eritrea, Sudan, Ethiopia, and then the trade routes that were controlled all along the Red Sea. Now, Aksum, today where they are, where they're showing on the Arabian Peninsula, there's not really enough rainfall right now to have incredible growth because they can grow their own food in these areas, but it's starting to get wetter. But it's really interesting, the full expansion point over those 400 years, which matches the 400-year grand solar minimum, but you can see they were in areas that must have had much more precipitation than we are today. Now, this precipitation seems to be returning in Oman and Yemen, but what's most interesting is Ashum coinage. The main center focal point, wheat, around both of those kings and figures. Gold coins. They controlled the trade routes. These coins were actually the standard that were used as what was the Roman coinage pre-BC, when it was not diluted at all. Now, gold much more valuable than silver, but in history we keep hearing about shekels, denarius, silver pennies, these kind of things, sterling. But we're going to go back in time a little bit here to the Sumerian shekel. So I've been really interested to see how much of a crop could be traded for the silver, or how many grains of something we can get an equal weight on it. So the Sumerian shekel coming in at 180 wheat grains. And then again, all these things can be divided very much like cryptocurrency. But the most interesting thing in these very earliest of shekels, notice that, the grapes and either the wheat or the barley. That's really interesting. It's the center focal point of the coin. It's almost like this could be traded for wine, or this could be traded for bread or food, barley-based, wheat-based, something. Because it's on both sides, it's very discernible. It's like an advertisement of what this thing's tradable for. And then later renditions, we see the wine on the left and the poppy on the right. Tradable for these two items, alcohol and poppy, medicine. And then on to the Roman coinage. What's that in the back there? Wheat. But in prior iterations, you saw that the importance of the actual food was represented on the coin, where there seemed to be some transition point now where the ruler was more important than the food. So there must have been some switch in history going on, or some transition point there. At least that's my feeling. Something became stable enough where now they relied on the ruler to grow the food versus divinity or natural cycles. Like there was a flip there somewhere. And then looking back at some of these prophecies coming out for the next few years that we're living through, they're talking about working for a day's wage to get a denarius or silver coinage or salt or some kind of tradable item for your work for the day. So I jumped back in here. I found this Smith's Bible Dictionary barley entry, one of the most important cereal grains, the most hardy of them all. So see, there's a clue for you. Barley grows almost anywhere and can take, obviously, duress conditions. I know it might not have a flavor that you're used to, but if you can make bread from this, which they could, wow, imagine you can grow something where nothing else really growing, like sorghum, barley. These are the kind of things we're switching to. Hemp hearts, proteins. And to continue down, this kind of bread was mainly for the poor, because the wheat bread obviously has a higher value with it in terms of what you can bake with it. I mean, barley bread's now a specialty. You actually need to pay more for the barley bread than the wheat in many bakeries that you go to because it's a specialty product. But back then it was the complete reverse. And they would sprout it out. See, again, they even go fodder for horses. And they were talking about sprouting it as well, soaking it in water for a couple of days. They're so specific with it. They tell you when it grows. So even the novice who knew nothing, you could read this passage and go, all right, if we can find some barley seeds somewhere, we could probably grow this stuff, even though we don't know what we're doing, because it's referenced as such an item right here. Although they did talk about massive pounding hailstorms that wiped out crops. But I really like this shekel here. Notice how detailed it is and how much focus there is on the wheat. Now, is that galactic cosmic rays or some kind of sun ray shining on the wheat plant? Is this a post-grand solar minimum issue coin? Because it looks like the solar activity is quite a bit stronger. I know it could be, oh yeah, it's also the tassels growing off the wheat or the barley. Could be. But there could also be a secondary meaning in it. Because when you're looking through the Mediterranean region and you're seeing coins like this traded, the front, obviously corn, the back, wheat, tools, entertainment. If you drop this in my hand at any time in the last, say, 10,000 years, I would know what this coin is for. It's that distinct that this thing is an all-time message to pervade through tens of thousands of years. I could give this to somebody 100,000 years ago. In the last interglacial, let's say 113,000 years ago, I could drop this in their hand and they would know that piece of metal is tradable for food, tools, and entertainment. It's so in your face. I mean, this is the most perfect representation. Until, well, there were problems in sound money, far left. Notice how long they kept the sets of standards before debasement started. Top level there, obviously good monetary policy on the left. And as you can see, the Roman Empire is the more they debased the currency, all based on food crop losses. This curve, around 79 AD is when Vesuvius went off. And then you can see from that point forward, declines. So the Roman Empire is shrinking. They had to debase their currency. But speaking of debasing the currency, top is the silver certificate. Used to be redeemable for that amount of money in silver in your hand over the bank counter in the United States. And we lost that. We came off the gold standard, solid money standard. And speaking of which, Federal Reserve network issues, nationwide direct deposit outage. And I talk about cryptocurrency here as a transition for smart contracts and grain deliveries. And I always get these comments, well, if the internet goes down, you're not going to be able to access your crypto. And I'm like, the internet's not even down. You can't even access your direct deposit. If the internet goes down, you're never getting to your ATMs. Everything's electronic. This happened on a Thursday. So maybe that's the plan, to stall this when they really do crash the banking system and get that extra 12 hours before people start complaining that their money's not there. Inverted fog in Sofia, Bulgaria. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video. And instead of giving money to the United Nations in a global carbon tax, I invite you to check out the Adapt 2030 December merch. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Men and women's short and long sleeve tees and hoodies. Warning, this design may trigger Al Gore. The link's in the description box below, and it's another way to help support the Adapt 2030 channel.